Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today we're continuing our coverage on conflicts that are taking place around the globe. We're continuing our coverage, and we'll get to that momentarily, on the ongoing war between the Russians and the Ukrainians and its North Atlantic Treaty Organization handlers. We're also continuing to cover the conflict in the Middle East, and we're awaiting what we believe is going to be a very robust Israeli strike against the Iranians. We don't believe this is going to be a pinprick strike. This is going to be something more significant. Now, what that's going to look like at the end of the day, difficult to say, but we're awaiting that to happen, and we will report on that once that does occur. And we will look at the targets that the Israelis went after. There is a wide range of targets that the Israelis are looking at as we speak. Now, the war continues between the Russian Federation, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and its proxy Ukrainian forces. As we speak, the new NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, is in the Ukraine as we speak. Now, he is there to continue to shape the environment for the eventual intake, or what he believes will be the intake of the Ukraine into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We don't believe that is going to happen here at MFAN. But he's also there to continue to shape the battle strategy, the war strategy that is taking place. And the war continues. As within the last 24 hours, we have seen advanced weapon systems attack Russian over-the-horizon NEBO-M radar facilities. That attack took place near Berdyansk, this locale here. These are extremely long-range radar systems capable of monitoring inbound aircraft and missiles well over 300 miles in distance. So that system could and can see deep inside of the Ukraine. And the Ukrainians are alleging that one of those systems was destroyed by Ukrainian forces, be it a drone or a Storm Shadow system. Difficult to say at this point, but that is what the Ukrainians are reporting. Now, additionally, the Romanians are sending another shipment of Patriot missile batteries to the Ukrainians. So again, a very dynamic situation where we continue to see these weapon systems from the West being pushed in. We also are seeing these weapon systems being used against very valuable targets inside of Russia and in the theater of battle, specifically the radar site that was allegedly attacked. Now, we have not seen any confirmation that radar site was destroyed, but that is what is being reported. Now, with the NATO Secretary General in the Ukraine, and again, what is he there for? What is his purpose in the Ukraine? Well, namely, it's to direct war strategy. Look, the Ukraine is not part of NATO. By NATO's own laws and essentially regulations, the Ukraine is not allowed into NATO. But we may see the waving of the magic wand that will eliminate some of these guidelines that would prevent these guardrails that would essentially prevent the NATO alliance from entering into a third world war. So again, I ask the question, what is the NATO Secretary General doing in Ukraine? Again, war strategy. War strategy. Now, if the Ukraine is not part of NATO, and you have the head of the NATO alliance that is inside of the Ukraine, who is part of the architect of the war strategy against the Russian Federation, does that make Mark Rutte a target? Is he a valid target for the Russians to go after in terms of striking a command and control site? Yes, when we say a military organization is striking out at a command and control site, that means they are attempting to kill a military leader or leaders. Now, as we watch this war continue, as we watch the North Atlantic Treaty Organization to continue to directly impact the course of the conflict. Look, if NATO was not intervening on behalf of the Ukrainians, this war would look much, much different. So again, I ask the question, is the NATO Secretary General a legitimate target? Should the Russians pay more attention to the whereabouts of Volodymyr Zelensky? What is the cost versus benefit? The cost versus benefit of eliminating Volodymyr Zelensky and possibly the NATO Secretary General? Is there a cost versus benefit? Well, as I weigh this, I would have to say, in all probability, there is a benefit. And that benefit is resetting deterrence. So what is the cost? Would striking a valid command and control target inside of the Ukraine, what reaction would that cause from the West, the United States, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization? Would it change the dynamics of the conflict? Would it cause the conflict to change? Probably not. Probably not. We probably would not see NATO and the United States then go on a war footing, wanting to directly engage the Russians on the battlefield. In all probability, we would see the same thing continue, albeit deterrence. And that deterrence would be that Western military leaders would not feel that they have the ability to simply go into the Ukraine anytime they want. So I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule out an eventual strike on key military leaders of both the Ukrainian military, political leaders, and quite possibly going after the political leadership of Western countries that enter the battlescape. They're not required to enter the Ukraine. Ukraine has no official alliance with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. There's no legal obligation to come to the aid of the Ukrainians. It doesn't exist. So again, cost versus benefit. What is the purpose of the NATO Secretary General in the Ukraine? Well, it's to prosecute the war against the Russians. Hence, command and control target. So we'll see what happens. Now, additionally, as we continue to watch the front line crumble, the fortified location of Volodar overrun, destroyed, decimated, and taken by Russian forces. As I've talked about before, we're continuing to see this gobbling up strategy that is taking place. Let's go back and look at the last few days where you, the viewer, can see exactly what has happened on the battle map. So again, before, and then we'll go kind of a fast forward where you guys can see exactly what has happened. So continuing to move forward, and we suspect after the fall of Volodar that vast swaths of this area to the north, northwest, and northeast will eventually be taken by Russian forces. It looks like right now Russian forces are encircling, enveloping, destroying with the intent of eventually creating one fixed line as close to Pokrovsk as possible. And then at a certain point, we'll probably see the envelopment of Pokrovsk, followed by the much more heavy bombardment of that city. Pokrovsk is bigger than Volodar, much bigger. It contains not only apartment blocks, Soviet-era apartment blocks, but minor industry. It contains many single-family units as well, meaning homes. Let's go in where you can look at the city. And again, you can see why this right now is so important for the Russians. Look at the artillery routes coming into Pokrovsk, a vital transportation hub. It's used to store, supply, and then move Ukrainian battlefield supplies, both north and south, along the front line. But as the Russians get closer, the Russians are going to have complete artillery control over Pokrovsk, and the viability of Pokrovsk is continuing as a supply hub will be negated. So that's where we're at for today. We will continue to watch things very, very closely around the world. As always, thank you for joining us. Have a good day.